usually sell a lot because of the way they are extremely sensational, right? And people buy into this fact, and this are negative facts against the British monarchy, right? And also another thing in terms of feminism, people seem to think that monarchy is just using the taxes of citizens to fund themselves and enrich themselves, right? And so, in a world of full transparency, like the British monarchy is likely to clear these things out by talking about how, for example, you have investments, like investments somewhere, you have specific assets that they generate internally based on things like tourism and stuff like that. As opposed to a world where you just keep silent, right? People begin to form conspiracy theories and controversies about the issues. Insofar as that framing is out of the way, right? What are the benefits you are likely to get from this specific mechanism? Number one, you're able to maintain more relevance as a monarchy, right? Like a couple of things to note here. Number one, people feel that the monarchy has gotten too much power, right? And it's not being accountable enough, right? Why do you know this to be true, right? There's a monarchy in France, but nobody talks about it. What people talk about, like, is that of the UK, right? Because people feel that they have too much power and they are not being accountable enough, right? But then also, people in a world where you are not transparent, right? People see you as a body that uses taxpayers' money and is not accountable, right? People seem to think that this body is one that has too much power. What are people likely to do then? They're likely to vote for politicians that are anti the monarchy, right? Why is this bad? This limits the amount of influence of the monarchy, right? And this makes it likelier to create some sort of reforms to topple this monarchy, right? You know that these things have happened, before. They've happened in history where monarchies have been toppled. Even if they're not likely to happen now, this accumulative effect, this accumulative negative discourse and controversies are things that are likely to create this, to topple the monarchy in the future. This is important because we need to always catch up these controversies at the start, right? Because we don't know when they're going to become too extreme and people are going to call for the heads of the monarchy, right? And that's very important. But note that with the increasing amount of cosmopolitanism, liberalization, and increasing amount of Gen Zs in society, right? People seem to think that the monarchy is something that is outdated. In a world where, I don't know, like they create a TikTok account and make TikTok videos about the lives of the monarchy or stuff like that, right? People are likely to find the monarchy more relatable, right? And so this breaks down all the negative connotations that people have against the monarchy. But then this has a couple of benefits too. Number one, it sparks interest in the monarchy by signaling that they are willing to be accountable. We are willing to open our doors for you to see what exactly you are doing. Number two, this allows them to whitewash their image from all the bad things that they've done. Know that this is an actor debate, right? When we need to argue in the interest of the actors, know that at a point helping developing countries and stuff like that, you are able to whitewash your image. Hello. Yeah, I see you. I heard I'm not clear. Hello. POICU. Judge, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So 1 minute was I? Like my partner told me I was breaking. That's why I stopped. 1 minute. How many minutes do I have left?
Yeah, you're on 5 minutes 50.
Okay, sure. I'm going to continue from there. So continuing in 3, 2, 1. Right before I move on, yes, see your shoots. 3, 2, 1.
So I think that the ability to whitewash their image is something that will not really happen, because what will happen right now is that the calls will be much more stronger. When you're fully transparent, the dark history behind the royal family is one that will increase the calls for them to even be abolished.
Yeah, so thank you. I want to be very clear about the framing of today's debate. On both sides of the house, people are likely to call for the heads of the British monarchy. People are likely to talk about the ills of colonization and slavery because they happen on both sides of the house, right? All those things exist on our side. The delta on our side is that you have the ability to counter those things by whitewashing your image, telling people that you've changed, telling people that you're offering scholarships to black kids in developing countries and stuff like that. That's a unique delta you get on our side. Know that on both sides, people will still call for the heads of the British monarchy, but on our side, you have the ability to respond and whitewash your image, right? That's why these guys feel I cannot win. But then, last two benefits. Number one, this serves as a counter to the criticisms and creates cognitive dissonance as people who think the monarchy is bad, right? because most people are on the fence, right, about the monarchy. At the point where you give them something to hold on, i.e., transparency and accountability, they gladly hold on to these things, right, and use it as a tool to support the British monarchy, right? Why is this also important? Because low-key, people support the monarchy, but they don't know how to express that support. They need a tool that is relevant in this modern world, and that tool is accountability and transparency. You know what? When you give them this tool, they use it as a means to support the monarchy and express how it's a good thing for the United Kingdom, right? Never been so proud to oppose. Propose.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for that fine speech. You call on the leader of opposition to begin the case of the opposition by chair.
Am I audible? I cannot hear. Can I confirm?
Could you kindly read out the motion?
The motion is this house.
If I can truly hear very well.
This house, as the British monarchy, would live their lives in full transparency of the public.
Could you kindly read it once more? Because I thought that I didn't hear some words. Maybe
this house, as the British monarchy, would live their lives in full transparency of the public.
All right.
You should be able to access it in the chat of one of the previous of the motion release chat on Discourse as well, if you still didn't get it in full. Just let me know if you are happy for me to start. So are you fine for me to start? Can I just please get confirmation?
Yes, sir.
Then I will be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, as the leader of opposition, I think the single most important thing to recognize about this debate is that it happens at a point in history which is a turning point in the British monarchy. Recently, Elizabeth Windsor passed away, and with that, an era of living having the British monarchy exist in silence was over. We moved to the reign of Charles III, who has already in his short reign shown that the monarchy is going to be more vocal and more transparent in their dealings. This is something that as side opening opposition, we think is not in the best interest of the British monarchy. We think we prefer the reign of Elizabeth Windsor specifically as the British monarchy. First thing to notice in this debate before I move into substantive is just some framing on specifically what the power of the British monarchy is. Firstly, it is to note that it is no longer structural. While it was perhaps in the past structural, before the sort of division of powers was made more clear in the constitutional democracy, we think in status quo, power is no longer structural. That is to say, it still has some legislative sway that's written into the law, but it's to say that as soon as they use that power in any meaningful way, the citizens are going to say the monarchy is coming into conflict with the parliament that are elected. Fuck the monarchy. They're out. They're deposed, right? That's to say that as soon as they try to use the clauses in legislation to exert their structural power, they, as the monarchy, are fucked. The second thing to notice is that whatever power they have is specifically because of the economic interest of Britain itself, right? That's to say that the British monarchy is mainly responsible for tourism to the United Kingdom. That's something in the interest of the UK and by extension in the interest of the British monarchy. Notice, however, that tourism is going to wane as the power of the British monarchy wanes, they have a vested interest in maintaining that power. The third thing to notice is then that within Britain specifically, they have some kind of capacity to change social narratives. And that moves me into the first argument into this debate, and specifically as to the role of trend setting within the British monarchy. Notice that whether it's a good thing or a bad thing is not relevant here. It's just the fact of the matter that the British monarchy historically has positioned themselves as the safeguard of English morality. Three things on this. Firstly, we think that the British monarchy tends to be very effective at moderating disgust, right? We think, like, in general, things that the British monarchy does has slightly less backlash in society than things that they don't do. Notice here that Britain fails to hold people like Prince Andrew accountable for their actions, because the fact of the matter is that because Prince Andrew has a position in the British monarchy, there's less disgust intrinsically associated with the abhorrent acts that he committed as to if he were just a rich person independent of the monarchy committing the same acts. Like, look at like Epstein as an example. See how the response differs. Secondly, we think it moderates the structural response capacity of legal systems within the United Kingdom. That's to say that we think that as soon as the British monarchy takes a stance on something, the courts in Britain are somewhat socially obligated to follow suit, if for no other reason than that Britain has a somewhat consistent international foreign policy, right? We say that if the British monarchy takes a stance, the courts cannot directly contradict them. They need to be somewhat in line. We think that that's something that gives them influence. The third thing about their trend-setting capacity is to say that it has the power to produce active support of problematic views in the name of nationalism, right? That's to say that if the monarchy expresses publicly a view that is problematic, we think that people are likely to defend those views, because as soon as you criticize those views, you are in the same strain, like criticizing the monarchy. They are even if they're just nationalists within Britain, we think they're likely to defend those views in the name of defending the monarchy, even if those views are problematic. What obligation does the British monarchy then have? We think it's an obligation to silence. Two levels of this. Firstly, we think it's that the British monarchy ought recognize that as soon as they take a stance on any issue whatsoever, it is going to produce a conflict of interest between the monarchy, the parliament, and the courts. The second thing is it's going to actively undermine the power of the courts to act independently, because they need to remain quasi-consistent with the stance of the monarchy. Why do we think we get buy-in from the monarchy as the monarchy into this obligation? Firstly, because we think the monarchy is an institution which primary incentive is self-perpetuation. And we tell you that the citizens of Britain, if they need to choose between the interest of justice and the monarchy, they will fuck the monarchy every day of the week. That's to say that they don't have the option not to remain quiet, because as soon as they take a stance and limit the interest of justice, they are going to get gradually fucked over by the people of Britain and by extension across the Commonwealth and across the world. The second argument in this case then is on transparency. Here we give you the line that we think public awareness, no thank you, perpetuates social criticism. Two things here. Firstly, notice that Meghan and Harry restarted conversations about the problematic nature of the power of the monarchy in being public, right? This is something that you should note produces waning influence through increased criticism of the monarchy. This is something that the monarchy doesn't like, because negative attention is something that in their case means that the British people are more likely to fuck them over in the future. The second thing to notice here is that this doesn't just happen in theory, right? We think it happens structurally. You have to look no further than the fact that Barbados earlier this year declared independence from the British monarchy. We don't think this is completely independent of increased criticism of the British monarchy in the light of Meghan and Harry being vocal, right? We think it's that this expressed criticism that Meghan and Harry gives that gives Barbados the necessary social capital to incur the opportunity cost to break away from the British monarchy. These things don't exist in isolation. You cannot frame them as existing in isolation, because we show you that the British monarchy has a vested interest to buy into their obligation to silence. But secondly, because transparency produces active harms that harm the British monarchy, we think as the British monarchy, we should refrain from the public eye. We should stay silent. I stand proudly with side opening opposition.
Fine speech would call on the Deputy Prime Minister to continue the case of the government benching here. Am I audible? Am I audible? Does anybody hear me? Wow. Can anybody hear me?
Lindsay, you are very audible. We can hear you from outside.
Yeah, Deputy Prime Minister.
Yeah, hello. Am I audible?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right,
you
sure.
are.
Please give me a few seconds to set up my timer. All right, I'll be starting my speech. I'll take a POI. I'll take a POI for closing my 5th minute. I'll call for it, so get ready for it. Yeah, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, panel, opening opposition should be punished severely in this debate because the motion reads, this House as the British monarchy. It means that each side of the House today must argue in the interest of the British monarchy and why we must pursue the action that we have. I'm more interested in the social view and what's the interest of society and not necessarily the British monarchy. So they make arguments like, you know what, the power of the monarchy is not structured and they don't really have a lot of power. They don't have a lot of power and things like that, and the interest in society would be chaotic if they give a stance on this. They never tie all these arguments to how or why it matters to the British monarchy, and we think that is a very flawed argumentation. If the deputy comes to do that, they still should be punished for it, because today's debate we are looking at it through the lens of the British monarchy and why each world will benefit them. But then, why can't their argument still run? Quick rebuttal before I go on to my case. Because they say that the monarchy's power is not structural, and even if they use their power, they would be fucked. That's his words. But sorry, that's the word that the leader of opposition used. We think that the first engagement is that one, there is no analysis as to why this is true. Because if the constitution gives the power to the monarchy to carry out certain things, he shows us nothing to prove that once they exercise that power, everything will go haywire. There is zero analysis to that effect. And secondly, we see that the monarch actually exercised their legislative power. For example, Brexit had to be assented to by the Queen, and she was not happy with some of the details of Brexit, so it had to go back to their parliament for them to make those necessary changes before it comes back for the Queen to sign Brexit off. We think that these things indicate that truly and truly the legislative power of the monarch, like the monarchy, still exists. Why is this then more important to us? It means that even if gradually the monarchy is losing power, all hope is not lost, because there is still some level of power and authority. Now the debate is which side best it protects that authority that is left and even adds up to it. We think that our model generates that impact, and doesn't do justice to that. A second argument, they say that, you know what, in the interest of like national identity and what have you, monarchy shouldn't make decisions on national topics, because if they do, it impedes the judicial processing and judicial processing and things like that. We think that one, this is a very absurd argument, because like the monarch's stance on social issues does not necessarily translate to legislature, and if they those things will be used in judicial settings, it means they have become law or part of the constitution. And with the process that these things becomes law or part of the constitution, it's not monolith. Like the monarchy right now can't stand up and say this is the thing and we should go ahead with it. It should go to the parliament, and elected representatives of the citizenry would agree to these things to include them in constitutions. So I don't get how when they take a stance on a national issue, automatically it will mess everything up. I'm taking a 8 minutes. It will mess everything up in the judicial setting. We think that is not properly analyzed, and that impact is non-existent. But then, why are we important as opening government, and why should we place in today's debate? Because we tell you that panel privacy, the whole idea and concept of privacy is highly unnecessary, and for which reason, like the monarchy shouldn't hold on to privacy to their detriment and to their extension. Why? Two main reasons. We think that the first thing that opposition can come and say privacy does is that it creates a sort of mystery around the monarchy, and that mystification kind of legitimize the monarchy being in power because people are afraid of that mystery and what have you. Why do we think this thing is not relevant in the contemporary context? Because we think that in this informed world as we have it, people don't really care about history a lot, and if anything, it leads to more disrespect. People don't appreciate the things they don't understand because of the outflow of information. They would want to rationalize things and from a logical point of view, and this is evident how religion doesn't have that hold on most Gen Z and new generation people, because they would want to rationalize things and not be led by mystery. Why this is important is because then the approach of the market to have a hold on the citizenry should change from a mystic-based privacy approach to a more open, logical approach where people can appreciate what they are doing and what they are about, and we think our model achieves perfectly. But second reason why privacy is unnecessary is because they would say, you know what, when you open yourself up, you are inciting hate, and a lot of people will come for you. Why do we think this is worse off? We think people are skeptical about the monarchy and will spew hate and conspiracy in a world where these things have been exacerbated with the issues of Princess Diana, Meghan Markle, and the Queen's death. What do we as a monarchy do? Because the hate is already existent, the urgency is already there. We are already losing touch with contemporary issues, and things like investigative journalism and whistleblowing are already spewing secrets from the monarchy. How do we address it? Mind you, what is saying we shouldn't do anything because let's sit in our crowds and hope that everything becomes fine around us. We think that's a no-no. But again, we think that in our world, when we actively open ourselves up, we now take control of the narrative because we don't let investigative journalists come up with a secret, because we've opened ourselves up in the place. Again, we can actively pursue participants to whitewash our image and to address our image. For example, like doing things like socially oriented, like things to help people to counteract the negative press that we've already garnered and which we already assess whether we open ourselves up or not. Shoot, CJ.
If a member of the monarchy engagement makes offensive comments, do you think the British monarchy should actively make those public of their own accord?
So yes. Why? Because if they don't and it comes out, it harms them. If they are able to come up with that negative comment and dissociate themselves and the institution from those negative comments, then they give more legitimacy and more acceptance from the general populace. And that's basically what we are talking about. They should take control of narratives, and the way they do that is by opening themselves up, by opening themselves up. But again, why do we think transparency is better on our side? Because we think that transparency does four things. Firstly, it preserves the relevance of the monarchy, and with the history of monarchs around France, Spain, and other European countries, this is not too far from us, other European countries where monarchs have lost their power entirely, we need to remain relevant. How do we remain relevant? In a Gen Z world where people want to follow stories, where people want to rationalize things politically, things like right to information bill makes people want to probe into institutions further. We think that we can now reaccustom ourselves to become better and relevant. But again, this is a self-defense mechanism because we are losing now. So the option can't be that we are doing nothing and we are being private. That's what we've been doing always, and it's not working. Let's defend ourselves and let's take control of our narrative. And that is the only way we defend the interest of the British monarchy. Proudly, government.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for that speech. You call on the Deputy Leader to continue with the case of the opening of the But before Deputy Leader of Op comes in, a couple of you have been lagging for. I don't know if it is my network or it is what, but my
Hi, Chair. Your voice has disappeared for us. Am I audible?
Lindsay, we can't hear you. I don't know if you're speaking, but we can't hear you, Lindsay.
wow. Can anybody hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Yes.
So nobody heard all that I said.
We heard you to an extent where you said
Goodness.
it was lagging, most of their speeches was lagging on your end, and then you're talking about your partner, and then you cut off.
My speech was lagging. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much for making me know about that. So, leader of opposition, sorry, deputy. The floor is all yours. How are you doing?
Okay, cool. My name is Adam. I use they, them pronouns, but you're welcome to also just refer to me as speaker. I prefer my POIs verbally, so please just unmute and give them. Cool. I just want to check if I'm audible. If someone could just let me know, and then I'll begin.
I think I can hear you.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm going to begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. The most intense backlash against the monarchy has appeared recently in light of the sex scandal committed by Prince Andrew. This is an instance whereby the personal moral decisions of a single member of the royal family came to the fore and thereby fractured the entire institution because they were associated with that person. And yet the opening government would have you believe that if they were actively to tell the public that they make racist or offensive comments, that somehow is going to be good for them. We tell you no, it's going to incite the kind of backlash that is going to capitalize on this trend of already existing anti-monarchy
Then if everything's okay, I will be starting. Is it? Can I start soon?
Right, yo.
Can I start? Like, hello? I don't. Can I start? I don't. Am I audible? I'm so confused.
You are audible. I can hear you clearly. Begin your speech.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Oh wait, actually, sorry. Don't start the speech. I need a timer. Oh, my phone. Sorry. Okay, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. As opening opposition actually says, in an age where great change is happening within the monarchy, there will be backlash. And there is backlash. There now more than ever, there are increased chats about abolishment of the monarchy, about how the monarchy is useless and lazy and just using taxpayers' money, right? Therefore, it is in the best interest of the monarchy to make some form of change. And the change that we are proposing is full transparency. Now, let's look at firstly the context, what this full transparency actually looks like on the outside, before I get into rebuttal to opening opposition's case and why we are different from opening government. So firstly, the mechanism that we're using here, right, is the idea of transparency that we see is, first of all, like full financial transparency, basically like making their financial transactions transparent to the public so that they know exactly where their tax money is going. Secondly, then making the tax money that they get from the public completely transparent. Therefore, making it so that the public knows exactly how much money they are giving to the monarchy and where that money is going. This is mechanistic analysis that we do not see on opening government side. Then, for a comparative between what it looks like before transparency and what it looks like after transparency. Note that this clashes directly with opening opposition's entire case, right? We tell you that this drama and politics that opening opposition talks so heavily about comes from transparency, right? Because of the fact that things like rumors can leak out, people can get angry at like the monarchy, people like Meghan and Harry can say things because of the fact that nobody actually knows what goes on in the monarchy, right? So if it would have come from the institution, if the monarchy were able to have control over what their image actually was, over what people thought of them, this would probably happen a lot less on our side, actually. So not only like do we actually have less bad like imagery because the monarchy actually has control over what's being said about them, but this then obviously renders opening opposition's entire case moot. But I'll be getting more into that later. So now onto what it looks on. Now onto some context about what people think of the monarchy. People think that the monarchy are lazy, that they don't contribute to society, that they are wasting their money, right? So therefore, the monarchy has an interest, is in their best interest to be transparent, right? Because firstly, this will increase their relevance because like then people will probably stop thinking the monarchy is like useless and old and like needs to be replaced. But secondly, it will prove why they should like still be in power and why they should still have some form of power, even if that power is soft power. So why would they want this? Like I said, it increases the soft power, but it also increases like international prestige, which is another role that the monarchy does indeed have, which wasn't spoken about by either opening government or opening opposition. And it would increase support from citizens and internationally. It is therefore in their best interest and is therefore extremely likely in our world anyways. So now to get onto my rebuttal of team opening opposition, right? So firstly, like I said, they seem to think that this transparency, the transparency that that we're proposing only deals with politics and drama, which is again not the case. There's a lot more to transparency and a lot more that will be revealed to the public than just like if King Charles said a slur once, right? Secondly, then they spoke a lot about like of tourism and like how this will be like negatively affected if they're transparent. Again, hinging on the idea that like this transparency will only lead to negative comebacks, which firstly we tell you that their role is not only like a symbolic role, they do have legislative roles in terms of like military and things like that. Even if it's not that strong, it is still there. Secondly, the tourism money doesn't actually flow to people on the ground. But lastly, then, this idea that like honestly, if they are more transparent, they are more likely to have support and therefore tourism will increase. So then they also spoke a lot about how like the monarchy is supposed to be neutral, which doesn't really make sense because so like the idea that the monarchy is supposed to be neutral, and if they are transparent, they're not going to be neutral anymore because they're going to like reveal things about themselves that shows like where their political alignment is. But we tell you they are not neutral, right? On the simple basis of the fact that the King Charles is the supreme government of the supreme governor of the Catholic Church of England. They are therefore not neutral. They have a political stance. They have a religious stance that people actively support. So this doesn't stand on their side either. So then. And then lastly, they also spoke about how like transparency will lead to like really bad things being revealed about them, as I've said. But we tell you that because of this transparency, the monarchy itself will have the incentive not to do bad things. They'll have the incentive to like not be racist and like not waste all their money because they will be being completely transparent. We see side opposition seems to think that like the monarchy is just dumb and will just carry on the way they are and completely be blindsided because everything is transparent. But that's not how this is going to work. How this is going to work is transparency will force the monarchy to actually be decent people. Lastly, how to differ from opening government, right? Firstly, we tell you that we completely disagree with their characterization. They spoke about how transparency is pretty much just like interviews and stuff, but we tell you that we get full transparency on our side. So therefore, this mechanism allows for real world effects on our side and evidence that this effects will be taking place. Now to move on to my positive matter on like the value to citizens, right? As we've spoken about plenty in today's debate, the monarchy is funded by taxpayers. Taxpayers don't know where their money is going as it happens now, right? And therefore they think the monarchy is wasting their money. So just on like a moral, principled basis, they deserve to know where their money is going. But like on a practical level, this increases their satisfaction, right? It's valuable, or like the citizen satisfaction, which is valuable as they represent the country. So if the population is more supportive of the monarchy, like this could look really good for Britain as a whole, but also just the monarchy, right? Secondly, then an increased buy-in leads to a decreased chance of abolishment. I'll take a POI.
Ma'am, we tell you in the opening case that the power of the British monarchy is exclusively linked to tourism. If you have like open tax statements, that's not going to give them more power in society. It's not in their interest as the British monarchy.
We're not saying that it's necessarily going to give them like more power just because. We're saying that it's going to give them more support, first of all, but second of all, we tell you that their power is not only in tourism. They have power in many other aspects as well. Like I said, like legislative power and just like symbolism and support. It's not only in tourism. They definitely have other roles to play in England. So that point, I hope that answers your POI. So then secondly, the idea of accountability, right? So we tell you that like their money is going to have to be spent well, otherwise their citizens are going to get angry. Their citizens are currently getting angry. So in order to prevent this, they have to spend their money decently. So therefore, we have actual mechanisms that will lead to genuine accountability on our side versus side opening up governments. Secondly, then the idea of divine rule, right? We tell you that King Charles is like this, the supreme government of the Catholic Church of England. Therefore, he forms a religious symbol. So therefore, he has many devout Catholic followers. Then we have a second layer then of why transparency is good. Because if they see that the monarchy and King Charles is genuinely living by the Catholic values that they preach, this will increase their support exponentially, which increases their buy-in, which again leads to our main point that they will have more support and they will be less likely to be abolished, which is the increased chance that's happening now. And therefore, I'm so proud to propose.
All right, very much, Speaker, for that. It's now after the I think I can hear you now.
the member of opposition for this debate, I will take POIs in the chat. I'll take POIs by voice. I'll gladly take one from OG and one from CG if time permits. Right. So, panel, I'll be starting this speech in 3, 2, 1. The reason why I fondly love to debate about this motion was because on the day I was born, that's the day Princess Diana died, from over invading into her privacy, and because it became overwhelming to be part of someone that's 3 billion people on the world had an interest in following your life and you were going to be publicly dosed. The issue becomes, if you are to live a life where you have control over that, where you are not like any normal person, and also to be doxed, your entire lifestyle, everything you do would be seen fully as the motion prescribes, which one would you do? We are proud to say these people on our side would be able to determine the level of transparency they want and what should be. Critical framing for the closing opposition case in this debate. We say on our side, unlike opposition, we would posit that we would have transparency. The unique thing about our transparency is we would grant the level of transparency that we want. How does this look like? The level of interrogations and interviews there are, how often we are being interviewed, and what you can publish or not publish about us would be determined by us. True. The second framing here, people aren't going to be totally silent. The monarchy won't be silent on issues. They can always release statements that we stand by this, we do not stand by that. The monarchy distances itself from this or that. We think it's very important to wash out all these things. We are just going to be silent and nothing happens. Critical framing. Second thing, we think that at the end of the day, we would rank above our opening opposition for 5 basic reasons. One, realize OG makes 3 important cases that they only engage one. There was a case on conspiracy theories and how the validity and legitimacy of the monarchy is always being undermined by people who second guess them. To this, there was 0 engagement. 2, there was an argument on why whitewashing, and what was principally needed by the monarchy to engage and have that relevance. 0 sort of engagement to them. The thing they respond to is about why there's anti-monarchical sentiment and why they would work on that. We respond to all 3. Same thing why we beat OO in the debate is to talk about why we will still have some level of transparency on our side. It's critically important to note that OG fear that on their side they are going to have full. On our side, we are going to be quiet, which OO responded not to. We say on our side, we control that narrative and we'll show you why that is more important. The third thing then we would mention is about how OO mentions a lot of things that were heavily under-mechanized and underwhelming in the debate. That's why we are going to win. Take CG then. CG comes on a faulty premise. CG's main case and the necessity problem of their debate is about how taxpayers' money is used. Let's do a reality check, panel. Every year, the government makes sure that the amount of money of taxpayers that are given to the monarchy is presented before the government. Everyone knows how the economics of the monarchy goes. That's why when you go onto YouTube right now, you can literally see how they spend money because it is recorded and it is put out there. The level of full transparency exceeds and exacerbates the amount of money you spend and enters the sort of life you live, how you live. Let's notice, and we think it's important to know that priori, no one in reality lives a fully transparent life. No one knows the sort of jobs your parents does. No one knows what you eat, and no one knows the amount of bodyguards you go out with. We think this is principally something that is bad and they would not do. First extension then in the debate on the issue of demystification. There's a saying that lions don't talk to sheep. Why do lions do not talk to sheep? It's to inspire things like fear, to gain things like relevance. The idea that the monarchy is a cultural heritage, the idea that these people were a divine family set by God, they are not normal. At times where people like immigrants are entering the UK, people who have no ties to these guys, it's important that these guys maintain an aura of fear, an aura of relevance. You can't go out there doing lazy damn dances on TikTok to make yourself very relevant. The things that keep you relevant are the aura, the things that keep you to be a great person. Why is it true? when we normalize these guys, there's no need to then hold them to that sort of austerity and that sort of pride that we put them in. Why is it very important? Because they are not normal. That is the thing that drives the two things that push the monarchy. That is things like the publication houses and tourism. That will be our second extension in the debate. Second thing on legitimacy. The reason why they take this legitimacy is because familiarity are things that bring contempt. They do not allow everyone. People do not know their day-to-day activities. These are the reasons why people would want to go to the Balmoral. People would want to go to Windsor Castle and see what goes on there. Why do we think demystification is something that is bad? At the end of the day, when these people are relatable, they are just you. Why then should you spend much more money? This engages the idea of relevance and idea of these people are always going to like not be there, right? The second extension from closing opposition in this debate is going to be about the disbanding of the monarchy and why this rather entrenches that sentiment. Two things. One, the reason why there are anti-sentiments for the monarchy is to the level which they spend taxpayers' money. The reason not yet outsaid is because of the relevance and the mistake surrounding them not being fully transparent. The reason why people visit the Balmoral, people visit Windsor Castle, people go to these places to see them, see how they live their lives, is because there's mistake. You do not know. This is why the amount of money gained through tourism alone are things that do not only help them live their lives, but go back to the UK state in of. This is critical mechanization for the case that for the case that the OO brought to you when they mentioned tourism, but never mechanized this. What is very important, when you take this aura of mysticism away from them, there's no incentive to go and see these people. This is the point that this case, that was derivative by CJ, comes into play when there's nothing that intrigues people, there's nothing that inspires awe and fear, there's nothing that makes you think, why are these guys like this? There's no answer to your questions. This is why you go see them. This is why the sentiments are there. But this is the reason why the sentiments aren't right and they aren't kicking them out, because they've become elite that always takes money. The things that make them not to be kicked out is the very mysticism they have around them. We would like to posit that the things like the books, etc., that are written about them that have very little and are in rarity are the things that keep them alive. Why is privacy very important? Because on the day I was born, Princess Diana died. The reason is this: on our side, we determine how we control the narratives, the sort of interviews we have, the levels of interviews, reviewing these things that dictates to these people. Realize that the monarchy and people that are being seen by only 100 of people, they are being seen by 3 billion of people. The idea here is this: they'll be second guessing. You open yourself up to negative criticism. The issue becomes when you become constantly overwhelmed. This is why the private lives of people are being taken away. At the end of the debate, opposition interrogates the private life of these people and why it's not in their interest, unlike OO, which that argues why the monarchy should be there critically on these 3 reasons. That is why we win the debate. Thank you.
We thank the member of UP for that speech, and now welcomes the government. Shagbadu. Don't try any special soup for you, I beg. Special soup.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Please begin your speech.
Okay, I prefer my POIs in chat, please. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The monarchy is a direct symbol of Britain's colonial past that serves as a parasitic entity, sucking taxpayer money out of a fragile economy while living a lavish lifestyle clouded in secrecy. On side closing government, we're proving firstly how it's in the monarchy's absolute best interest to remain transparent, and secondly, how this will be beneficial to the British public. I'm going to be doing 3 things in this speech, right? Firstly, I'm going to prove how we're immediately better than OG in this debate. Secondly, bring you further new rebuttal against opening opposition that proves why our case is just better. And thirdly, and lastly, I'm going to bring some rebuttal to closing opposition. Firstly, let's look at how we are uniquely better than opening government. We think this can be unpacked in 3 main layers. Firstly, we tell you that the lack of mechanistic analysis is detrimental to the case, and so we offer you a clear mechanism on our side. They tell us that being transparent will simply look like the monarchy essentially having to inform us on things like personal details, including births and marriages, and to conduct numerous interviews about what their lives are like behind closed doors. Let's compare this to our mechanism and see why ours is just much more effective. We tell you that the mechanism that should be most valued in this debate is financial transparency, as we think most people condemn the monarchy currently for the waste of taxpayer money that they take each year and don't do anything beneficial with. Therefore, we think firstly that each taxpayer should be informed of how much of their tax is going to the monarchy. But secondly, and like very prominently, financial transactions should be made open to public so that there is little to no room for corruption when the citizens know how much is being taken and what should be spent. Secondly, we think we're just better because in terms of the actors part of this motion, we actually are better in terms of the entire political landscape in relation to the monarchy, because we are uniquely address the religious buy-in attached to the monarchy, i.e. we're the only team that recognizes King Charles' position as Supreme Governor of England and how we actually don't remain neutral in this debate either way. But secondly, we actually do hold the monarchy to much more of an accountable standard by focusing on what people care about the most, i.e. that means financial gain, right? Then let's just focus on like the main part of my speech, that'll be a rebuttal against opening opposition, which we think is just our most competitive team here in this debate, right? Let's unpack this in like 3 layers. Firstly, we have this argument and this like initial like standing of tourism, right? They firstly tell us that the monarchy is mainly relevant because of tourism, therefore bringing people to England. First of all, we really don't understand this contradiction present that when they tell us that essentially no one cares about the monarchy. I mean, Johann literally says that everyone doesn't give a fuck about the monarchy, and then they tell us that people enter specifically to like come from abroad to see them. But secondly, we think most people already condemn the monarchy due to the fact that even if they do garner like tourism, this money never trickles down to anyone on the ground or benefits the economy overall, except for that like rich 1%. Yet taxpayer money gets sucked up every year to like fund futile activity. Secondly, we think that they will receive backlash if they're not transparent and that they're currently not neutral in any way, as we get like from claiming in opening opposition. Panel, if we completely reject this, right, we think you cannot deny the religious links between the monarchy and the church, meaning they most definitely already identify with Catholicism and prioritize that both politically and religiously. But secondly, surely if the monarchy wants more relevancy and buy-in, they're likely to remain transparent so that they can do charitable or useful things in transparency while being transparent to make them look valuable. We think that's in their best interest, and we think that completely cancels out their argument there, right? Then they give us this like really main argument of on-site opposition, opening opposition, where they essentially tell us that if put in a situation where citizens have to choose to either side of democracy or the monarchy, they will like always choose democracy because, you know, everyone says fuck the monarchy as they claim, right? We have 2 main responses here that essentially squash both their arguments that are like present there. Firstly, we think this argument clearly needs to focus on the group that is most loyal to the monarchy and engages the most with King Charles' religious position, that being old British people or older generations, right? We think younger, oftentimes more liberal people already care about the monarchy from a financial standpoint as they recognize the amount of taxpayer money being wasted. But secondly, we think this very importantly means that older generations are actually going to feel empowered to support the monarchy when they're under attack, not simply ignore them or cast them aside, right? This completely ruins their argument that no one will care, no thank you, at all about this transparency. We think people who were once loyal will care even more now when they are viewed under a lens of scrutiny, right? I'll take you, PR.
Would you support the complete defunding of the monarchy, which is essentially to say taking away all state funds from them?
No, we wouldn't actually support that because we think this is an activist motion. We should be prioritizing the monarchy and what's best for them. Therefore, we actually want to uplift them in this debate, and that's how you win this debate. Cool. Then let's just lastly unpack here how we beat closing opposition, right? Firstly, we generally do not think closing opposition can win this debate while blatantly knifing opening opposition and spending the majority of their speech rebutting directly opening opposition's matter. That really makes no sense, right? But secondly, they present a heavily detrimental principle contradiction and stance here. They're actually okay with transparency and they think that it already exists. They claim that there's already some form of transparency present in things like interviews, like looking into the monarch's lives, right? Panel, there are already many interviews and media surrounding the monarchy, sure, right? But we tell you that they can simply just lie or they literally just change their reasons or motives around doing things. We think this is completely useless and fabricated. Then they tell us, no thank you, then they tell us that we can go on YouTube and find out how much the monarchy earns and spends already. Firstly, you really don't understand how they can claim any of this is a valid depiction of the monarchy's earnings, considering we literally live in an age of false news where anyone at all can say anything. But secondly, and most importantly, if they're okay with YouTube videos and interviews about the personal lives of the monarchy, why are they not okay with complete transparency? They don't draw a line here and they don't tell us why, or what the difference is between financial transparency and just transparency in their personal lives. We think this is just a solid tangent that they're going to go down. I'll take another POI.
Yeah,
cool.
The issue is this. People, they dox them, right? The constitution, the government brings it out. This is where people can get the thing. And you limit the debate to only economics. You don't talk about how Princess Diana died because her privacy was constantly becoming overwhelming. You don't engage the debate.
Okay, we think we engage with the debate fully, but we focus mostly on financial transparency because it's unique to our case, and that's the thing that people mostly care about. Sure, people like put the monarchy under fire because of like personal reasons or because like of like sexual controversy or often just like controversial topics. But we think when it comes to the end of the day, most people want to like abolish the monarchy because they think they're useless and just using money for no reason that comes from innocent taxpayers. Therefore, that's the thing that we should be prioritizing in this debate: what like citizens care about and how the monarchy is going to remain like relevant and in power, right? Then lastly, we think that that closing opposition tells us that this sort of demystification is bad and will lead to like less tourism overall because they agree with opening opposition about like their point on tourism, right? They tell us this, but they provide no like analysis here, right? So they don't make any sense of it. If that was the case, no one would care about things with like there's full truth present, right? Like world wars, that sort of thing. Tourism will still happen regardless of transparency, right? We think that's still like present. And secondly, we kind of just reject this idea that a lot of people enter because to see the monarchy in the first place. We kind of get no analysis there to even prove that that's true, right? But secondly, then transparency won't affect their power and standing as is. If anything, it will only increase support. A good example of this, of why this is true, is that people prefer politicians who are transparent here. They like it when people are human. They like it when people reveal how much they're spending. They think they're more relatable then. So on two levels, we win there. On a comparative year, side closing government best benefits the monarchy by allowing them the chance to actually rebuild their image and garner more support, as opposed to ideas of abolishment, and closing opposition proves little to nothing. Side of side closing government.
Thank you, Speaker, for that speech. Let's now have the last speaker, Whip of Opposition. Please begin your speech.
Speaking. I can see that your microphone is muted, so if you could unmute and tell me would help.
Can you hear someone speaking, but I can't hear what you're saying?
Is this okay?
Read the motion, please.
So the motion reads, this House as a British monarchy will live their lives in full transparency of the public. If it's unclear, I can change the
You can speak on this device, it's fine.
Okay. So I'll be using this device to give my speech. And for the last time, I want to confirm if you can hear me, please.
Yes, I can. You are audible.
Okay, thank you very much. So starting. monarchy on the award. We think that is like one that is unlikely to happen. Why? Because the openness that exists in the award means that now people have more access to the historical wrongs that the monarchy has exacted on places like Africa in history and all those stuff. But also think that because of that exposure, it becomes harder to whitewash your image, and also people now become call for the abolition of the monarchy, and it is usually undeniable in that regard because your wrongs are all exposed to the public. In our world, it looks like whispers, it looks like murmuring, it looks like conspiracy theories, and because of that, those calls are illegitimate, and we can choose not to respond to them in that regard, and those calls are deniable. But also, we think that you give legitimate case for them to remove you in that regard. What do they respond to? What do they OG say to our mystery arguments? Their response to that is that in our world, people cannot understand that mystery, and because of that, they are not likely to buy into the idea of the monarchy. But yes, that's exactly the case. Because they cannot understand the mystique, because they cannot understand the monarchy. That is why people use certain narratives to accord them that legitimacy. That these people's legitimacy is ordained by the divine power and all those stuff, and these people have certain mystique which we can still attach to them. But
Right.
the ridiculous thing that they say is that investigative journalists to expose some of these wrongs and all this stuff. We think that is at least much more existent in your world, because in your world, you're not living your full lives in public. But in our world, even if the investigative journalists break certain things out, we can easily deny it. Yeah, the veil of ignorance in that regard, and and that this brings support for the monarchy. But that whole case is premised on a lie. And my partner tells that, and they don't fully respond to that in that regard. He tells you that the idea that the monarchy is not being financially transparent is actually a lie. The monarchy's budget is presented in over there, how much they spend, how they contribute to the economy and all those stuff. This is really the only reason why they are still existent, and the cost for them to be removed have not worked in that regard. But even if you are supposed to take that lie as true, that we don't know the amount of money the monarchy takes, very bad as but even if it is true, they do not show how the public will come to like the monarchy because they know how much they spend. Yeah, they don't become people because they will now come to act better. But they don't show to what extent you and see. We think that why will people, what do you call it, come to, why will overpampered guys become more what's the name, likable people? We see them sometimes making messes on themselves on camera. How exposing their lives go as like on camera 24/7, make who are overpampered and all those stuff, make them more likable. You make the working class even hate them more because they are enjoying and they are suffering in that regard. How impactful is that? You lose out in that regard. But before I go now, take OG. Yeah, OG. Yeah, if not OG, CG.
Your biggest case is tourism. Note that despite the advertised Paris, etc. on the internet, that's the more reason why they want to see it, because people are talking about it on the internet. So tourism is not affected.
Yeah, you responded to, oh, you didn't respond to us. Our biggest case was not tourism. So why we were over our opening? First, we said that the debates that we said that our opening debates the need for the monarchy and how this harms the institution of the monarchy. But it seems that the actor in today's debate is super specific. It is the life. So when they look at the info slide and look at the motion, it talks about the lives of the members of the royal family. Those are the actors in today's debate and not the institution of the monarchy as a whole. So from you show how this does not just harm the institution of monarchy, but the members of themselves. How you eliminate the monarchy, but how this harms them in terms of their privacy and how this can help them psychologically in that regard. But secondly, our opening failed to distinguish both worlds, shows the level of transparency that exists in both worlds, because the motion says full transparency on the side of it doesn't say what there's no level of transparency. That is why even during Queen Elizabeth's time, you saw them releasing statements and all those stuff. What we do in our side is that financial transparency is over there. Like I've already analyzed that in that regard. Also, our biggest case on the demystification of the royal family and how in your world, the royal family is normalized. Like they become a reality show, like the Real Housewives of Dubai, LA, and all those stuff, or following the Kim Kardashians and all those stuff. That's what happens in your world. And because of that, their legitimacy reduces. The seriousness that people attach to them reduces. And when they lose out of that benefit, when the calls for them to be removed are much more heightened, when they lose out, it means that the members don't get to enjoy the perks that they enjoy. But my partner's case on how they lose their privacy and how this helps them psychologically, they monitor 24/7 is something that's very important and something that helps them. Remember Princess Diana, we win today's debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker, for that speech. We have come to the end of the round. Please just hang around. Within the next 15 minutes, we'll be back with oral adjudication. Lindsay, I don't know if you can hear me. Lindsay, if you can hear me, please join me in the deliberation room now.